Now I hope I'm recording. Yes, I think I'm recording.
Yeah, you're recording now.
Okay, so what I said was I'm going to make the ricotta gnocchis first. I have a half a batch in the refrigerator. And as soon as I put these together, I'm going to put the ones I make now into the refrigerator because it really does help to roll them out if they're cold. I changed the recipe a little bit because of the experimenting that I've been doing this week with the amount of liquid that's in things. And I'm going to talk to you about that. And then we're going to make my mother's. I don't know if we'll get to roll those out. We may roll a little bit of those out. And I've made 2 different sauces. So at the end, I'm hoping we're going to put some of the gnocchi together with the tomato sauce and some with the asparagus, pea, mint, butter, cheese sauce that I made. So let me show you the ingredients first. Let me make myself, I want to be a full screen, and somebody told me, oh, I do, there. No, now I'm looking at somebody, oh wait. I'm looking at Pia's kitchen. There's mine. Okay, so I'm going to try to get the view here so that you can see what I'm doing. So what I have here is I started out with a 1-pound container of ricotta. And I sent you an email last night to say that the most important thing when you're making these is that this ricotta has to be dry. And I want to show you, I've had this draining all night. And that's how much liquid came out of that. And so that's a good 1/4 cup, maybe a little bit more of liquid. And if that went into the bowl and then I was pouring flour into it, believe me, you would need a lot more flour. The other thing I'll tell you is that all of these recipes say a cup of flour or a 1.5 cups of flour. I have never been able to make something that I could roll with a cup or a 1.5 cups of flour. So don't be surprised if you have to add more flour. You want to add as little as you possibly can, otherwise you're going to make them tough. But in order to roll them, there has to be a sufficient amount of flour. And there are so many variables. The wetness of the ricotta is a variable. The size of your eggs is a variable. It all makes a difference. So that's the amount of water, and I'm going to throw that away. So in this bowl, I am going to put that's about, after I drained it, it was 16 ounces to begin with. After I drained it, it's only about 13 or 14 ounces of ricotta. So that goes in. It wants about 1/3 cup of Parmesan, and I'm just kind of making it up, but that much. And instead of putting, the original recipe said 1 large egg, and I was just finding that it was simply too wet to do it. So instead of putting 1 egg, I put 2 egg yolks. It's less liquid, and some of the recipes said to put egg yolks. So that's what I did. Those are 2 egg yolks that just went in there. And that's, it also wants a little bit of salt, which I already put into the flour. So now I'm just going to kind of mix this up, and I want to get this good and mixed. And then as soon as I feel this is incorporated, I'm just going to dump all of that flour. Actually, I'm not going to do that. This is about 1 cup of flour, and I'm going to start with 1 cup. And it's never going to be enough. So, but that's how we're going to start. We're going to start with 1 cup. And just sprinkle it all around in there. You first do it with a spoon or a spatula, but pretty soon a spoon and a spatula are not going to do it. And you're going to have to get your hands in there. But I kind of mix it up until I can start to get an idea about how this feels. Now, I'm telling you, that was 1 cup of flour. And you can see, by the way I'm manipulating this dough, that there is no way on earth that this is in any shape to be rolled. And you have to be able to roll it into snakes. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put at least another 1/2 cup of flour, some on here, and some onto this board. And I'm going to take this whole shaggy bit of dough, and I'm going to dump it onto here. like this.
Just a reminder, if anybody has any questions, they can type it into the chat feature and I will ask them between her talking.
So now it's starting to feel a little better. And one of the recipes said, just remember, you're not making bread here. So you do have to knead it, but you're trying to get as much flour. So I kind of keep removing it from the flour to see whether it's feeling sticky on my hands. And I can tell you right away that compared to the dough I made yesterday, which had the whole egg in it and only a cup of flour, this is leagues better. I can already feel like this might be a dough that I could roll with just a little bit more flour. You want to get the shaggy stuff off your hands too, because it's not nice when that gets incorporated. Wants a little bit more. You know, do you make dough? Are people on here who make dough and who like to play with dough? Because I find that dough tells you what it wants. And you always, however much flour it tells you you're going to need, don't start with that much because everything is different. The humidity is different. The eggs are different. Who knows what the flour is? I measured today. I thought, well, maybe if I get really scientific, and because some of the recipes in my books from Italy had grams and ounces. You know, they put weights in there, but even the weights did not help me. It never was right. That actually is a really nice piece of dough. If I stuck my finger in there, it would be sticky, but I'm not going to stick my finger in there. I'm just going to kind of pank this like this, and I'm going to get some saran, and I'm going to let that be in the refrigerator. But that was about, with all that water taken out, using the egg yolks, and probably about a cup and a half, not quite 2 cups of flour. And that feels like a dough that I could actually almost roll right now.
Angela, the recipe you gave us was for 1 large egg. Are you saying 2 egg yolks is better?
Yes. And maybe because I had extra large eggs, but I measured the amount of liquid in 2 yolks compared to 1 egg and 1 yolk, 1 full egg, and the 2 yolks had less liquid. And I'm telling you now that it's absolutely essential that you drain that dough, that you drain the ricotta. Because otherwise, you're going to be adding so much flour that the dough will be tough. So I'm just going to put this in the refrigerator, and I'm going to get that other dough out. And I think you're going to be able to see still that other dough, which has been in the refrigerator much of the day, how much stickier it is, how much more I have to manipulate it than I'm going to have to manipulate this dough later. Hopefully we'll have enough time so that I can give this a little bit of time in the refrigerator. And then, oh, it's very nice. I love the way dough feels in my hand. That's why I like to make pies. It's like doughs that you play with. Okay, so I'm going to put that in the refrigerator, and I'll get the other one out. I'm going to get rid of some of this shaggy mess here. Okay, here's the one that's been in the refrigerator. It's only half of it because the other part of it is already in the gnocchi are made. This little, if you have one of these, it's a great thing to have. It's a bench scraper, especially when you're making any kind of dough that's going to leave scraps around. If you start rolling new dough on top of that old dough, you're going to have very not nice dough. So this is still, look at this. It's tacky, and I would not be able to roll this without adding more flour to it. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to put more flour down. But this is definitely, and the only difference was I drained this It was drained, but look at how it's sticking to the bench. So I'm just not sure why, whether those eggs had so much more liquid in them. I'm gonna cut this into 3 pieces and put 2 of the pieces back in the refrigerator and just work with 1, because I'm gonna start rolling it now for you.
Ma, how many people, if you made this batch, how many people do you think this is good for?
Regular people or people
Regular
in our family?
Just regular people.
Regular people, 3, 4 people. Our family, 2 people. Okay, so I have a piece of dough about that big.
You want to say hi? Say hi. Hi, Mima.
Hi, sweetie. Hi.
Noni's on here too. Wait, let's go see Noni. Where's Noni?
Okay, so this is dough that has elasticity to it. So as I'm rolling, I'm also trying to make my hands go like that. And you have to, it takes a little bit. This actually feels pretty good right now. But you see I'm rolling and I'm trying to stretch at the same time. So I want that to get to be about that big and about as thick around as this finger, my middle finger. And you have to be careful, because if I stick my finger really hard in there, then it's going to be tacky. So it just takes a little bit of playing until the dough starts to do what you want it to do. Sometimes even cutting it and working with a smaller piece. This end doesn't want to behave.
Angela, how long do you want this piece to be?
That big.
No, that's not it. No, Angela, you have to give us some information.
A measurement.
That will help. That big doesn't.
A foot.
Okay, thank you.
It's like an inch, like the diameter would be an inch.
A little bit less, yeah. 3/4, but yeah, around like that. So I'm going to keep doing it until I get it to be about that thick. So I think that's about a foot now.
On the ends, it gets thin, so you have to kind of go boop, boop on the ends.
Like that, like I'm going like that. And see this, sometimes I do this to get it like that. So that's about the length that I want it. I'm gonna get a knife and I'm cutting about 3/4 inch to 1 inch pieces like that. Like that. So there are the little, now some people, by the way, the word gnocchi means lumps. So some people don't do anything more with these. They cut them like this, they put them on a tray to dry a little bit, and then they put them in boiling water. And they'll do what they do, they float to the top. In our family and in many of the recipes, especially from Southern Italy, people do things to them to make them have a shape. And what I do with them is I want a little bit of flour, not a lot, because I'm going to take this with my 2 fingers like this, and I'm going to roll my 2 fingers back. You have to gauge how much pressure. If I put too much pressure, I'm going to smear the ricotta all over the table.
Karen,
I don't put
Angela,
enough.
If you move the camera, we can't see your fingers.
Oh, okay. Wait. Go back, I guess. There,
Right.
how's that?
Yeah.
Better? Okay, so I'm going to take my 2 fingers and I'm going to go like that. And it just made a little roll, and I did it very gently, and I'm doing it from the, I don't know how to tell you, the non-cut side. I don't want to roll from there because that'll smear, because it's an open cut. This is not. So see, that time it didn't quite roll, but I just did it a second time and it rolls like that. You just want to pull it towards you. And the lighter the touch that you have, the better you'll be, like that. So you have to leave yourself some room to roll. Sometimes I'm missing here, like that. And flipping it is actually a good thing to do because it gets your hand away from it, like that. There are lots and lots of kinds of macaroni pasta that Italian people make that require that movement, that are real pasta, that, as opposed to gnocchi, like cavatelli, and there's all kinds of things. See, that was sticky, so it didn't roll very well. I'm gonna roll out the other piece. Is anybody gonna try these?
Yes, just not right this second.
Not right this second. Liana, are you making them?
I'm not making them, but I am definitely going to try this because gnocchi is my favorite.
Did your mother make them?
Yeah, but like the potato ones, not the ricotta ones.
Yeah. And has anybody tried to make potato ones?
My son makes them all the time.
And I have terrible time with the potato ones. And it's because, again, of the moisture content. Most recipes say to boil the potatoes. Some people tell me they bake them and that does a better job of helping you to control the amount of moisture in them. So that's a pretty good length there. I want to get it a little rounder. And then I'm going to cut them. Mine are 2-finger size. Some recipes that I saw, people talk about 3-finger size, and I couldn't do that because of my arthritic condition, but that one was good. So they're rolling a little bit better now. I'm just throwing them onto a tray. I'm going to stick that tray into the freezer too while we make the other one. You can stick them into the refrigerator or you can cook them right away. But it is a good idea to let them dry out a little bit. You don't have to put a sheet on your bed to do it. I think the board gets the right amount of flour in it too, so they roll more easily. But they're rolling nicely for me now, like that. So that's the end of those two. I've got one more here. Let's see. There, I did it. So that's what they look like on the tray. Just kind of little rolls of dough. I'm going to put those in the freezer. Okay, I'm going to move the computer over to the stove so I can show you my mom's recipe. See, the best place to put this here. Okay, so what she does is she takes a cup of water. I should have had this on before. And she brings that cup to a boil. Let me do that quickly. And as soon as that comes to a boil, this is 2 cups of flour. There are no eggs in this, although that's 2 cups of flour and a teaspoon of salt in that bowl.
Ma, how long do you keep the dough in the fridge for?
You can freeze those. You can put that tray into a freezer and they'll freeze really quickly. And once the little lumps are frozen, you can put them in plastic bags and keep them in the freezer and keep them for a month.
All right, I have a couple messages for you. Teresa Carlton is making them with you right now.
Oh, okay. So I would put them in the freezer. If you're going to cook them right away, I would put them in the freezer even about 20 minutes. They freeze really quickly. They get really hard really fast. So we have to wait. I'm sorry, I should have had this water. That's why I need an assistant.
And then Chef Dubaibo. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I'm sorry.
I need a soup jar.
Chef Dubabo. Who's that? Chef Dubabo.
Oh, hi.
She made potato gnocchi a couple of weeks ago, and she boiled them.
You boiled them, you boil the potatoes?
Yes.
Yeah. And that's what most recipes tell you to do, is to boil the potatoes and to only cook them till they're just done. And then to peel them as soon as you can handle them, and to put them through a ricer until let them dry out. But I have never, they've always been too wet. I just think, I've just found them really hard. So I tend not to make them. And I think the agotha ones are more tender. So this is coming to a boil. It'll be boiling pretty quick. And this is 3 tablespoons of Crisco. And I'm gonna put that in there and let it melt. And as soon as that is, I'm gonna dump that into that flour and whisk it around. My mother said, if you want, you can add an egg yolk to this, but she never did. I don't ever remember my mother doing that. So I'm gonna let this come to a boil. This is going in.
Says that she has made them successfully with potatoes, but she didn't even know prior to this class that there were other options. She feels like she's expanding her horizons.
I think probably when Grandma was growing up, her mother did not make them the way she made them, because nobody made them the way she made them. Probably if somebody made them in her family, they made them with potatoes.
What happens when they're too wet?
You have to keep adding flour in order to get them so you can touch them and roll them. And then the more flour you add, the tougher they get. So then they're like, so there, the Crisco is all kind of melted. And I am just now gonna put this right into here. Shut that off. And I'm just making a dough here. Now she said at this point, this is really hot. If you wanted to, you could put an egg in here. I just made a mistake. And the rookie mistake is using this whisk to do this, which is the worst thing you can use.
Good. This is great.
I'm gonna take that out there.
Oh, Ma, it's not Teresa Carlton. It's Teresa, your patient.
Teresa Jovino.
Yeah, she's 12.
Teresa is the mom of my favorite little girl.
Yeah, she wants to say hi.
That's Louise, and Louise Jovino, and Teresa Jovino is my favorite little girl. Teresa's making them. Teresa is becoming quite a baker.
Is the egg for flavor, or does that help the gnocchi stick together?
Say that again.
Do you put the egg in there for flavor, or is that to help the gnocchi like hold together?
I don't know, maybe for flavor, but this is basically a flour and water gnocchi. I'm gonna go back over to the other place, to the counter. So those of my mother's are a lot easier to prep. My draining of the gotha, there's no nothing. I'm just gonna dump this out onto here and incorporate these into here. And as soon as this dough cools, it is a much, much easier dough to roll than any of the other ones. Even if I had put an egg yolk in here, it would have been a much easier. It's really warm in my hand right now, and I'm gonna knead this a little bit because I want to get all the flour really incorporated. If you have arthritis in your hands, this feels wonderful. So I think this is more like a pasta dough than it is like a traditional gnocchi dough. But that's the dough, and you see how much more easily I'm manipulating it. It's just way easier to do. So that's basically done. You can, if I'm cooking for a party, I'll make 3 of these if I'm cooking for a big party. Because it's, once I get it like this, I'm just gonna let it cool down. It is much, much easier to roll. So that would be my choice. And my kids, if I mess around with anything my mother made, say to me, what are you messing around with it for, Mom?
What are you doing, Mom?
I'm expressing my displeasure
So there.
from being messed with.
That's that dough. I'm just going to put it in the refrigerator enough to let it cool down a little bit. And I'm going to take out the ricotta dough that we just made and see if it's malleable enough to roll. And then we'll play with this one. So I wish you were here to feel this. But the texture, this is sticky now. And I am gonna definitely have to put a lot, look at it. I'm definitely gonna have to put a lot more, I don't know if you can see that, but it's definitely wetter. And it is not gonna be easy to roll, but I'm gonna try. Because it still feels nicer than the one I made this morning. I'm gonna put this back. You can see with all of them that the putting together of the dough, this is not bad. It's much softer than my mother's. It's going to take me a bit of fooling around here to get this snake to grow because it's so soft. But these will be delicious. And they were only in that refrigerator for about not even 10 minutes. So what I was saying is that putting any kind of gnocchi dough together, whether you're making it, potatoes is a bigger deal because you got to cook the potatoes and peel the potatoes and put them through a ricer to make them into small pieces. So there's a lot of prep to potato gnocchi. And to neither of the others is there so much prep. And to my mother's way of doing it, there's the least of all. The recipe that she used was, it was a French dumpling recipe. And I don't know whatever made her think to try it in the way that she did. But then it became the only gnocchi recipe that she made. So these are pretty nice. That was relatively easier. It was certainly easier to roll than the one I made this morning. So I think using the egg yolks and really, really, really draining that ricotta all night. I put that in there last night. It was in there all night and all today, getting all the moisture out of it. But this dough is very tender. These are going to be very light when I cook them.
Mom, the one you're making now is the one with the ricotta in it?
Yeah, it's the one that I just made in front of you. So I didn't see it, and it's doing
Oh, Angela, this does not have ricotta.
Yes, this one has ricotta. This is the one with the ricotta that I made in front of you that I put the 2 egg yolks in. Yes.
I thought this was the one that you just made. Oh, the one with your mother's is in the refrigerator.
Correct, and I took the other one out. This one is the one I was putting on the tray before. Now see, these are the ones I just put in the freezer, not even 5 minutes ago, and they are already frozen. So I'm just going to add these to that. And I think we're going to cook a batch. And we'll
Angela, it's Georgia.
Hi.
Hi. On those potato the ones that were made with potato, what I'm remembering from my mother was that you had to use an old potato. You
Yeah,
couldn't use like a russet potato that had water in it. And certainly there was not the Yukon Golds and all those back in the day.
Right.
But I found making them with a really firm, maybe red potato. I don't know old potatoes anymore. I mean, I know what they look like when she did them, but I don't see those potatoes anymore. But she would do it in the fall, mostly because the potato was older and drier.
Yeah. So that's probably it too. And I do see when in the recipes that specify what kind of potatoes, they usually say russet. And I do remember now hearing somebody say it's better if it's an old potato because they're more dried out. So you couldn't go pick up, you know, Yukon Gold potatoes
No.
and boil them.
And then
And-
right by the time you rice them, they're watery.
Yes.
You know,
And then you have to put so much flour in them.
they turn into bullets.
Yes, they're you still
Correct.
want to eat them.
When you eat them cold, they're bullets.
Yes. You still want them, but your body rebels in many ways. This is the texture of this in my hand is a lot like when you make challah, you know, when you're making the rolls to make the braid. For those of you who have made challah or bread that it involves braiding, the dough is soft, like a brioche. That's what this feels like that kind of soft dough. And this is a meal that if you make these in the morning or the night before, they take 3 minutes to cook because you put them in a pot of boiling water. I'm going to put some water on now to boil.
Angela, if you were to make them the day before, would you leave them in the fridge overnight or the freezer?
Yes. I would leave them in the freezer.
Freezer, okay.
Yeah, and then just take them right out of the freezer and put them in the water.
Okay.
And it's like any dumpling. You know, every culture has some kind of dumpling. And they all cook the same way. You know, like, I don't, if you ever made spatula, I think that's how you say it. Where you would stand over the stove, over a pot of boiling water with a knife and cut the pieces of dough into the boiling water. Just let them fall in there. And then they rise to the surface. And then you do whatever you're going to do with them. And people put them in soup. I mean, you know, I looked up all these fancy sauces that come, like when you sometimes in restaurants, if you see gnocchi on a menu, it's always with, you know, fancy sauce, sage, butter. And I was going to make a sage butter sauce, even though I don't like sage very much. But this week I made this one that I'm going to make with the asparagus and the peas, and that was really quite delicious. But I have to tell you that most of the time, when I'm eating them with some other sauce on them, I think to myself, what am I wasting my time for? I just want some tomato sauce on these with some Parmesan and basil. That's really what I want, which is what we grew up eating. We never had anything other than a tomato sauce on them. These are very, very soft. They would have benefited from being in the refrigerator a little bit more. But they're rolling for me. I'm having to be a little delicate with how I roll. And as I said, a lot of people don't bother with this step. They just plop them in the water. And
And do a couple with the fork, just to be pretty.
Yeah, Georgiana's asking that I do one with a fork. I actually have two things that I use. Sometimes I use a fork, and sometimes I use this board, but I think this board would be a problem right now. My mother's I can probably do on that board, but with a fork, let's see if we can make sure one doesn't get stuck on the tines. You hold the fork like this, and you're gonna try, get a bigger one. You're gonna try to pull it down the fork towards you, And it's gonna get the tines of the fork marks in it. I didn't press hard enough for that one. I'm afraid to press it. Wait a minute. Nah, see, they're too soft, but there's, I don't know if you can see it. There's one that's got some of the fork marks in them, but these are soft to do that.
Ma,
What?
Catherine Palmer has a problem.
What?
Kurt Grant says it has to be red sauce, and Eric insists it should be white sauce.
Who is insisting it should be white sauce?
Eric.
No, he's wrong. In the south of Italy, you're not going to see many white sauces. And gnocchi are like this, are from the south of Italy. Campania, Basilicata, Abruzzi. This is a southern Italian thing. But we are going to make a non-tomato sauce in a moment. I'm getting better at getting the kinds of the fork in them.
Received any.
Michael Simon made his with pierogi dough the other day.
Yeah. Well, dough is dough, no?
Well, they're dumplings, so.
Yeah. Does
Yeah.
pierogi dough have potatoes in it?
No, it had sour cream and butter in it. His did. Mine only has sour cream, but he put butter in his. He had it left over, so he made a gnocchi with the peas and the pea sauce in it, like you're gonna make.
Okay, so there's a tray of them. I have lots more dough, but I don't want to spend a lot more time just rolling these. I'm going to take my mother's now, and I'm going to put this back in the freezer for a minute. And I'm going to take my mother's dough out and see how that is to roll, just so I can show you that. And then I'm going to make this and the tray that I have in there, and we'll make one of the sauces, okay? Let me put this back in.
Ma, here you go. Ma.
She's in the refrigerator.
She's in the refrigerator?
Yeah, here I am. Okay, this is my mother's dough. It's still warm to the touch. And I don't remember her being worried about that. So I'm going to get just a little flour on my board. Yeah, it's warm. But no comparison in terms of how the dough feels. So let's see what happens with this.
Oh, yeah.
Just look at how much easier it is for me to roll this dough. It's a much, much stiffer dough. Probably shouldn't be as warm as this.
Angela, so this is flour, right?
This
The
is just
floured one?
flour and water and a little bit of Crisco
Okay.
in the water.
Okay.
And I think that probably these are more like pasta. They're more like cavatelli, you know, Liana?
Yep. I have a question, Angela. Have you ever tried or made sweet potato and gnocchi?
I have not. I have eaten them in restaurants and butternut squash ones, but then you have to see how much easier that was to roll that out? It took no effort on my part. I didn't have to play. I didn't have to fool around with it. I didn't have to add a lot of flour. It's cutting a lot easier.
And I've actually made your mother's recipe and the ones with my grandson. And in all honesty, we knew the difference because we cooked them separately, but it was not easy to tell the difference. We thought we liked the ricotta ones better, but in actuality, when we mixed them together, you couldn't tell the difference.
And these don't have cheese in them either. And also, if I want to do these on a fork, I can do these on the fork. Much easier. And I can actually push down so I'm getting the indentation, the groove in the fork when I do that. So if a beginner kind of gnocchi, this would probably be a kinder one to start with. And then you could branch out to trying others because they are definitely fussier. The ones with potato in them and the ones with the ricotta in them. They're delicious, but they're definitely fussier to play with.
You can't possibly eat any more gnocchis this week
Oh yeah, I can.
with sauce and cheese.
And I got up at 3 o'clock in the morning the other day. I've been doing that a lot, getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning and then not being able to go back to sleep. And I was hungry. And I came up here.
Ma,
Yes.
what kind of board are you using?
This board,
Yeah.
this is my countertop.
Yeah, it's like a butcher block countertop, which he is very fussy about anybody touching.
Oh, I don't want marks on it.
Yeah.
Not fussy.
A little bit fussy. Once they're boiled, should they go right in the sauce to be served?
Yes.
Go in the sauce, and then you would refrigerate them in the sauce.
Oh. Once you cook them, I wouldn't, if I'm going to serve these to company or family, I wouldn't serve them leftover. Do you know what I mean? I would serve them right away. I wouldn't make the whole thing ahead of time. I think that's what I'm trying to say. You could make the gnocchi ahead of time, but I would not put them in the sauce ahead of time. I would not cook them and put them in the sauce ahead of time. This is such a pleasure doing what I'm doing right now because I do not have to think about this at all. And they're just rolling. I'm going to try one on the board just to see.
My grandma would do it so fast.
Huh?
Grandma would do it so fast, and she would.
Yeah. Yeah, I can even do them on the board. Look at that. Here's the board. And I'm just,
So Marianne DeStefano said the whole egg or just yolk to your mom's recipe.
she said, what she said, Marianne, is you could put an egg in if you want. I don't know what that means. I would be careful with a whole egg.
That means that she didn't want you to know how to do it.
No, I don't know if she did that very often. I don't think she would have just put an egg yolk, but who
I
knows
always
what
put
size
an
egg.
Every
I'm
time
just gonna do one more roll and then I'm going to cook, okay?
every time I make it with a medium egg.
You put an egg in?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll just make one more roll and then I'll get these out of the way and cook the ones I've made and show you that white sauce. I've got red sauce. I made a marinara sauce, just a plain marinara sauce. And then we're going to make this quick butter sauce that has asparagus, green peas, mint, and cheese and a little cream in it. And see how that is. I made that earlier this week and it was delicious. It was really good. I didn't put the asparagus in it. I only put peas in it because I didn't have asparagus, but now I have asparagus. So this is, I hope you can see how much easier this is to roll and cut and everything. Cut it a little bit. Pia, isn't it a little harder to roll when you put the egg in it?
No,
No?
egg makes it easier because it's stiffer.
Well, this is pretty stiff dough.
Yeah, I mean, like egg just generally will make, it's a binder, so it'll make the dough stiffer.
My daughter, when she graduated from Smith College, went to culinary school, got a certificate in pastry making. So she's done a lot of baking and playing with dough and cakes and batters and whatever. Okay. It's a pretty big one. We won't make one that big. So just make these and then I'll stop. I'm just going to let these sit on the counter too. I'm not going to do anything with them. I don't even have any flour on this board now. And these are rolling nicely. And I can really push down on them, which is good because then they get a little thinner and the sauce gets in them. So these I'm going to save to put in the red sauce. I wish all of you were here and I was making a big dinner. That's what I wish. This quarantine stuff is getting really old. Okay, I'm not gonna make any more. I'm gonna stop there. And we're gonna go over to the stove. I'm gonna get the other gnocchi out and ready to go in the pot. And we're gonna make a quick sauce. So now let's see where I want you to go. Wait a minute. And I'm gonna put the computer back over on the other side there. Let's try it from this angle. So I've got a pot of water. No, this is not gonna be good. I've got a pot of water on to boil and let me see how I can show you this. Wait a minute. Oh, I didn't think this out clearly, but let's try this. So what I have here is everything I need to make this sauce. I have a tablespoon of olive oil and a tablespoon of butter. I've got about 1/4 cup of cream. I have some shallots, lemon zest, and I'm going to use the juice of a lemon. This is about 1/3 cup of Parmesan. And I have red pepper flakes. I've got a big bunch of asparagus that I cut into 1-inch pieces. I've got some frozen peas that have been sitting out so that they're almost defrosted. So that's what goes into this. I don't have the water's not boiling yet, so I can't put that the gnocchi in there. So the first thing I'm going to do is to just make the sauce. And what it wants you to do is, as soon as that water boils, I'm going to throw those in there. So first thing it wants you to do is to get this pan heated up and to get the butter and the oil in there, which I'm doing. I'll let that get all nice and melted. Always when you're making pasta, sauce for pasta, you don't want to dump the water out of your pasta because that water, after the pasta has cooked in it, has some thickening agents in it. So if you're making a sauce and the sauce is looking thin, even like pesto sauce or any kind of sauce that you're making, butter sauce of some kind, if you put a little bit of the pasta water in, it does a great job at thickening it and kind of emulsifying the sauce and making it smoother. So this is 1 whole shallot. I'm gonna get a spatula here. And these are just gonna cook for a few seconds to get them a little translucent. It all comes together very, very quickly. And then the next thing that goes in are the asparagus. These are just going to saute in there until they're soft. I'm going to turn this heat down a little bit. You don't want to burn those shallots. I think I probably should have cooked these a little bit ahead of time. so that you didn't have to just sit here watching asparagus cook. Have you been finding it difficult to get food things, or is everybody getting stuff delivered? What are you all doing?
This is Trace. I can't find flour.
Really?
Really.
You have farm markets around you?
We do, but everybody's making that stupid sourdough bread now.
Oh,
So
Okay, so I have 25 pounds of flour and 25 pounds of bread flour because I could only get it in 25-pound bags.
yeah, I have a farm market here that will sell it in 25-pound bags, which I haven't wanted to do, but do you go to the supermarket, Teresa, or are you having to have things delivered?
No. We're going. So
Yeah, we go
okay
too.
with that, yeah.
I just, every time Grant goes, I say, look in the flour aisle. And the other thing you can't get here is yeast.
I can't get yeast. This is Louise. I can't get yeast at all, any place.
I got a pound of yeast from Amazon.
From Amazon?
Yep.
I'm going to have to go shopping at Jane's house.
You're welcome. I could give you some yeast. I could give you some pub. But I mean, like, there's lots of things we can't get.
It's crazy.
You're at the beach, Jane?
And we're at the beach. Yeah.
And are there farm markets open?
No, not yet.
No.
We get stuff delivered, but we haven't been. I have not been inside a grocery store in 6 weeks.
Wow. Yeah, we go to the grocery store here. So these probably need to go a little bit longer. They're not quite soft, but I'm going to, but the water's boiling for the gnocchi. So I'll let those keep going.
Can you freeze the dough before you roll it out and like roll it later? Does it freeze well?
I've never frozen it, so I do not know the answer to that. I'm putting a whole lot of salt in this water, and I'm gonna go get my gnocchi. I've got them in 2 trays just because that's how it was, but they're all pretty much frozen. This is just
Angela, are you
water. What?
I'm sorry. Are you mixing the two, or?
Yeah, these were from, these are Regatta ones. I didn't mix my mother's.
Will you mix them, or you're going to do them separately?
No, I wouldn't mix my mother's in with the Regatta.
Okay.
That's one tray of the Regatta. And here comes the other. They're pretty frozen. And what you're looking for them to do is rise to the top of the water. So let me see if I can show you. They're all down at the bottom of the pan. And I'm going to stir them because I don't want them to get stuck down there. But when they're done, they're already soft. So I'm being really careful with them because I don't want them to stick together. But when they're done, they're going to come to the top of the water. And I'm just going to let them do that. I think I might put the top back on to encourage that to boil again. Those are soft, so we're going to see how they do. Let's taste one of these. Yeah, it's a little crunchy, but a little higher. It's got quite a bit more cooking to do. Let's see what they're doing. They're still hanging out down there. Still hanging out. Usually one brave guy will float to the top and then they quickly come back. Ah, there comes the first one. And this is what you take. This is what you use, the spider. Now there's 3 of them floating up on the top of the water. See if I can show you. See them?
Yeah.
Starting to float. See them?
Yeah.
That's what they're all going to do. They're all going to float, and I'm going to wait till they're all floated up there.
That's what we do with matzo balls.
Yeah, same thing. Same thing. Matzo ball is it's kind of like a dumpling, isn't it?
It is. It is. It's just bigger. Not bigger than that.
Asparagus is almost done. And the gnocchi are coming to the top. And they're pretty nice. They're pretty cute. There's a bunch of, now they're floating up there a lot. I'm gonna wait till they all get up there. You want them to float up, and then you want them to sit up there for just a few minutes, because you do want that dough to get cooked on the inside. See if I can show you again. You see them? Floating up there, but there's a bunch of them. That's about half of them maybe,
Okay.
floating
good.
up.
I want to come to dinner.
You wanna come here to dinner?
Yeah, can I come?
I can't tell you how much I want you to come here to dinner. I can't even express.
Yes, you can. I completely understand. I would feed anybody. A person could come off the street and I would feed dinner to anybody right now.
Okay, and now in a minute, I'm putting the peas in now because they're gonna start to cook in there. And then as soon as the rest of these, I think what I'm gonna start to do is to take some of these out. They're getting there. And they're also gonna cook a little bit more in this sauce. So there they come. Angelina, do I hear you?
Come say hi.
Mima, it's me.
Hi.
Hi, Addie. Hi, Nomi.
Hi, sweetie. You want to come and have supper with me, Ma? So there's all the peas and the gnocchi, and they're in there, and they're just going to cook a little bit till the peas are a little bit done. And then what's going to happen next is we're going to add cream. We're adding 1/4 cup of cream into there. We're adding the lemon zest all in there. We're adding Parmesan. And we're going to scooch that all around. Some people, there are places in Italy where they make gnocchi like this and then saute them. Oops, I just dropped a whole bunch of peas on my floor. And see, this sauce now, the reason I'm glad I have this here is that this sauce is dry. It also gets a little bit of lemon juice. I'm going to put that in now. It gets some salt and pepper, which is over here, which I'll put in. Like that. And some pepper. But it's dry to me. And so I'm putting a little bit of the hot pepper flakes in here. And I am also going to get a bowl here. And I'm just going to put a little bit of that water from the sauce in there and let that cook in there. It smells really good. And I probably am going to want to put more Parmesan on there because I don't think that's enough. But you can see, I put that water in there. Can you see the sauce on the bottom of the pan? And it's thickening really fast. See how I can sort of get a spoon through it? So I could probably put even a little more water in there as long as I'm continuing to cook this.
Ange,
Yeah.
why are you, the gnocchi, why are you cooking the gnocchi again now? I mean, I thought the gnocchi were cooked already.
Well, they're partially, I partially cook them, but then in this recipe, you cook them a little bit more so they get the flavor of the sauce and the sauce gets incorporated on them. This is the tomato sauce that I made. It's just a plain marinara sauce, very simple. When I'm with that, I am not going to cook those gnocchi again. I'm going to take them out of this pan. I'm going to put them on a dish. I'm going to put the tomato sauce on them, the marinara sauce on them, and some Parmesan cheese and some basil cut up, and I'm going to eat them really fast like that. But this recipe wants you to cook it a little bit, and to me, this is still a little bit dry, and the peas are still probably not done. It's also that when you put peas, you know this, when you put frozen peas in, you want to cook them really fast, because the longer you cook, you want to just cook them long enough so that they're done. Because the longer you cook them, if you cook them too long, they don't look green anymore. They look gray and mouchade, and they're not very good. So this is done. I'm giving this a little bit more. I've got some more Parmesan. Let me take this over to my dish. I'll be right there.
Hi, Grant.
Hey there. You guys are really into this stuff.
There we go.
Whoa, whoa.
That's what we got.
Holy smackaroni. I'm eating tonight.
Angela, that looks so good.
Doesn't it look good?
Looks fabulous.
And just a little bit of Parmesan on there, and that would be it. So let me come on over here, talk to you a minute. Grant can eat it's good.
Oh, no, I couldn't.
Yes, you could. I know you could.
I'll try to just have a little nibble.
So there. I want to see everybody's dish when it's done. There's mine. I'll make the rest of them now and put some sauce on them so you can see what they look like with the beautiful red sauce on them. But there's this one, and it smells really, really good.
Angela, I'm curious, do you like yours better, or your mother better? Which one do you like?
You mean
which one do you prefer?
Gnocchi itself?
Yeah.
I like my mother's the best.
Okay.
And if you ask me what kind of sauce to put on it, I would never put anything on it. This would not be my first choice. Anything you can put tomato sauce on, Leanna.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put tomato sauce
Now
on.
that one looks so perfect to me. That's the one I want to make.
It does look really good.
It looks so good.
Leanna is there?
Yes, Leanna.
Oh, for God's sake.
It is.
Hey,
really
Grant.
Hi, sweetie.
I saw Grant's fork go in there. I swear it.
It did. There it is. Really
Oh,
pretty.
Angela, it looks great.
Wait a minute, I'll be the judge of this.
Go forth and make it.
Everybody says it looks fabulous. Beautiful, delicious.
Look good.
That was just about an hour, so we did good. Now I got a mess behind me, and I got more gnocchi to make, and I'm going to make them tonight.
Now, why don't you just put the gnocchi into the freezer? The ones you
I could, but I got all that sauce over there, and I want to taste some of the sauce on it.
Who's going to eat all that?
Say it again.
Who's going to eat all that?
Well, some neighbors are going to get some dishes right now.
Adam accused me of getting shipments of food, and I said I haven't gotten anything.
You want me to ship gnocchi? How am I
But I
going to
did
ship gnocchi?
baseball pads. Can you see, guys?
She asked me to send her.
She sent me those things that are
thing. She's trying to convince me she's
targeting
got
on
wrinkles.
face. I don't know if everybody else gets targeted, but it's those little sticky things that stick to like under your eyes and your neck. So I did it last night.
And she thinks she's more beautiful than she was before.
I feel refreshed.
She was gorgeous before. How could she be more beautiful?
Delicious.
Grant says it's delicious.
Trust
And
me.
look at my kitchen. Look at the mess.
It should all.
So does Grant clean up, or are you going to clean up?
I'm going to clean up.
See, Rob cleans up. I cook, but he cleans up.
Well, he helps. He does help. So thanks again for coming, everybody. I forgot what I'm doing next time. Next time might be decois, meringues. I think maybe meringues.
Angela, can you use a different cheese, or does it have to be ricotta?
I've never used anything else. I don't know what else you would use.
Okay.
I would think, what would be soft like that? Any kind of soft, what's that other, farmer's cheese? That's a soft cheese. You could probably use that.
Not cheese. I don't know, it is.
But I wouldn't think you would want to put goat cheese or, I don't think.
I've actually had goat cheese gnocchi in an Italian restaurant. It's a very different taste.
Yeah, and texture too. But you certainly can use other squash of any kind. I saw a recipe for beet gnocchi. I don't know. But butternut squash, pumpkin, sweet potato, any kind of potato. To me, this texture, I'll tell you, they were a pain in the ass to roll out. But they are really, really light and puffy like little bits of air.
Is that a technical term?
Those are the ricotta ones.
These are the Gotha ones, yeah.
Okay.
At the Gothenburg.
Yes.
This is Benji. Benji, look at this. Look at the camera.
Who is? Oh, that's Benji. That's little Teresa. Where are you, Teresa? I'm not seeing you.
Stand up. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I can't see you. Hi, Linda. Let me see if I can find Teresa.
There's Teresa right here.
Oh my God.
See her?
I don't see her. Sorry. I don't know how to find her either.
Holding him.
Teresa, how old is Teresa, Louise?
12.
12. And she just has a first-time cochlear implant and is doing incredibly well and is a baker. She bakes and cooks. So we're really, really happy for her. I miss her so much. You tell her, Louise, Teresa, I miss you.
We miss you too.
All right. Goodbye, everybody. Thanks so much. I'll
Bye-bye.
take pictures of everything.
Thank you, Samuel.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I'm gonna get the.
Did you ask her how the weather is up in?
The weather is very beautiful and warm today.
Do you still have the card with the correct pronunciation, the way you spelled it?
Yes, here it is.
Could you do them quick again? Oh, gnocchi. That's the.
Gnocchi.
Gnocchi.
Okay.
Goodbye.
All right. Thanks.
Okay.
Bye bye.